Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the opinions of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth 148 Masonic Podcast. My name is Ebby Kirkendall. I'm a past master and chaplain of Fort Worth 148.
I am Brandy Patton, current Wurzel Master of 148.
And I am Cody Cox, current Senior Warden of Fort Worth Lodge, number 148.
Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to be back in the podcasting chairs with the brethren here. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're going to be talking about a documentary that Brother Cody has seen and got him thinking, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. It has to do with membership and all the things that we talk about here on the podcast. And then we're also going to be talking about some how to use the working tools of an entered apprentice in our many adventures in the Masonic pendant bodies.
The
So we're gonna talk a little bit about that
Working tools we trust them with.
the working tools we trust them with, indeed. And so we've got a great show lined up for you. As always, like and subscribe. Let us know what you're thinking about us. We've got some great comments recently. I have to admit, some fitness opportunities for us, which are always fun.
Apparently, some of us need to be on a treadmill. So, hey.
You know what? You're not the only one. I need to be on a treadmill. Brandy, you need to be on a treadmill. We all need to be on a treadmill.
Treadmills for
Heart health
everybody.
is an important Masonic thing.
Absolutely.
The beauty of the working in Texas is we're currently in a sauna. So that's the first step.
Yeah.
Right? We're losing weight as we speak under these very hot lights.
It's being sarcastic.
So,
We have air conditioning.
but yes, so just so you know, we read every comment. And so if you have a suggestion, a topic you'd like us to talk about, something that's going on, we've gotten some audio comments lately, and we've been actively trying to adjust our audio quality. Apparently, some of our recordings have had like a hiss in the background or something, depending on where you're listening to. I think it's been in video, but not on the audio podcast only.
I haven't heard it.
I heard it when I was watching the other day. I think it was when I was watching or listening to just the audio, the podcast version. So,
Okay.
but we are actively trying to make sure that our audio is always performing at peak quality, that too, peak quality, and that our video components are linking up properly. So just know that we are paying attention to your comments, and we appreciate them.
We're using union people setting up our flat.
That's
studio.
right. We are
scheduled.
actually trying to get better.
Sarcasm. We're
Actively trying to make this a better experience.
It's gotten much better over the last year and a half, I think.
Absolutely. I think that if you compare the audio and video quality of our first podcast to the one we're listening to now, I think that there's a night and day difference. And also, we've expanded our opportunity onto YouTube in a visual standpoint, so people who like to watch their content as well as listen to it have an opportunity to interact with us in an innovative way.
You can't walk back from that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Now,
all I know is that if one of those comments came from a certain someone that I know that's over in the island of England, he can come and show us how to do it better. So
okay, the gauntlet, as they say, is
it's
thrown
been
down.
thrown.
So, but yes, we appreciate all the comments and feedback that we get. Please send more. We are always looking for ways that we can do things better, and always looking for feedback about just what people think about us. It helps out the algorithm. It does all good things for us.
Speaking of England, this episode will drop right around our 250th birthday.
Oh, really?
I don't know the exact date yet. I'm not that far ahead. But
Awesome. Well, in addition, I'd like to say a big thank you to our sponsor this week, as the previous weeks have been, our great friends over at B&Brew Meadery and Fine Coffees. They have some great products. So if you like mead, which is a honey-based wine, fermented honey with some other flavors added or subtracted, it's a great way. It's refreshing, big, bold flavors. They've been a great friend to us here at 148. Brother Chris is out and about today doing lots of
That guy's
B&Brew
so
things.
busy.
He is so busy. I don't know how he finds the time to do anything.
Time Friday morning, Friday afternoon, Friday evening, Saturday.
Yeah.
If you've
let's
never
try
had
it.
mead before, you need to try it.
Yeah, if you have a need for mead, check out our friends at B&Brew. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. It is not the grog that you would expect if you've read, old-fashioned
we're not talking like
literature.
Gilgamesh or
Yeah, even though they
Beowulf
drank mead,
grog.
it's amazing that my first experience with mead several years ago was I was kind of expecting it to be this big, like soup in a jar kind of thing
Yeah.
that was just
You thought
alcoholic.
it was going to be real thick. And
Yeah, thick, and it's actually
Oh, it can be.
it can be, of course, but the varieties that I've seen and encountered, I think that are popular here in the U.S. are largely kind of
Frisco is super traditional, honey up front, no additives other than the peach and the barrel aged one he does.
yeah, and it's
Fit
really
the fix.
most of them are relatively light, refreshing, although they've got big bold flavors. I think you'll be impressed and pleasantly so with the offering.
Award winning. He's won so.
Yeah,
plus
he's won
you'll have
several
some
awards,
that
and
is
his coffee, he's been really, really cranking out some great coffee. And so, anyway, our friends at B&Brew are sponsoring this episode. Check them out, bnbrew.com. Use our promo code FW148 for a little bit of discount there. Take advantage of that as we approach the holiday season. We've got the
Also,
4th of July coming out
Just
soon.
just a disclaimer: he's not here, so the video is going to be a little different.
Yeah. And that's the fun.
And that's the way that
that's
it
the
happens.
fun, and that's why our audience tunes
We're
in.
keeping you on your toes.
Maybe better.
Yeah,
We don't
I'm
say
not
that.
so sure.
It's much better when he's here.
Yeah. So check out bnbrew.com, FW148 for a discount. So let's go ahead and dive in, gentlemen, to our first roundtable topic tonight. So, Brother Cody, you have recently watched a documentary, and it got you thinking about some things that you've heard in and around the Grandmasters Conference, some things that the Grandmaster has been talking about. So tell us a little bit about it, give us a little bit of background, and then let's toss it around and see what we think.
Well, the way that it started is, of course, our brother Omar Galiazi. He is involved with the Oddfellows Lodge here in Fort Worth. And the Oddfellows hosted a night not too long ago where they had a public screening of a documentary called Join or Die. The reason that they had this is because one of the organizations that's featured in the documentary is Waxahachie Oddfellows Lodge. And the premise of the documentary is American society and why we're seeing a decline in people being able to get along, isolation, those types of things. And the doctor, the psychologist, or he's not a psychologist, actually, I think he's like a political scientist. Yeah. He started his studies of like people belonging and people's like how they trusted their government and things like that back in the 70s in Italy, when Italy apparently they busted into like states and they started each state had their own government and things like that. And so he was able to see it like firsthand, and he wrote a book about that. And then years later, he started kind of looking at what he found in that study and started looking at American society, and he found a lot of similarities between those. And the big thing was that he saw that the more that a society was like engaged with one another in clubs and things like that, the better the society was. And so that's kind of where the title Join or Die comes from. It's the idea that like America needs to get back to being a joiner society. And in fact, he even mentions it specifically, people saying, well, I'm not a joiner. Well, apparently that is kind of like leading to the death of American society, because we're isolated, we're at home, we're on the computer, or we're on our telephones and things like that. And so it got me to thinking about what I heard when I went to the Grand Masters Conference, because he also in the documentary, the director pulls up charts that this guy had put together and about the rise and fall of organizations and stuff like that. And in my mind's eye, remembering what I saw at the Grand Masters Conference, the numbers matched perfectly. And so it felt like somebody from outside of our organization telling us what people inside of our organization are starting to realize and starting to tell us. And so I kind of wanted to bring it to the table, because the idea is again, that the more connected to your community you are, or the more connected you are to a group, the more that you're apt to take part with them, the more apt you are to engage in civil service of some sort, to be engaged politically, those types of things. And I just thought it was really interesting and like a wake-up call, to be honest. So I wanted to kind of bring that up and see what you guys thought about, you know, what do you think about that? About being part of a group? What does it mean? You know, why people should join, those types of things.
What are your thoughts, Brandy?
I mean, humans are social by nature. We live in packs, and that's how we survive. That's how we always survive. So if we don't rely on each other, we're not going to make it. I respect trying to be a hermit, but it's miserable. So you need social connections, and you can't do everything on your own.
Yeah, I agree. Whenever this topic came up in Lodge, this was a part of an educational piece that Brother Cody brought and kind of talked a little bit through at our last stated meeting. And I was reminded of a sermon that I heard from a good friend of mine here in Texas. And he was talking about in Scripture the first time that the great architect of the universe in the Christian Holy Scriptures declares that something is not good. In the book of Genesis, God goes through and articulates so many of the things, in the 7 days of creating, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good. And on the seventh day, after creating humanity, God saw that it was very good indeed. And then in chapter a little bit later in the same book, God articulates the first time that something is declared not good, and that's when God says that it's time for God to make for man a partner, because it is not good for man to be alone. And I think that that's a great way of articulating kind of this from a spiritual standpoint. I think that people in the theological and in the religious world have known this for years and years and years. There's a reason that people who are in church settings and in faith communities, they have all sorts of metrics that are better, health outcomes that are better, social outcomes that are better, all sorts of positives come from it. And I know that there are plenty of people who are going to speak to the faith part of that, and I totally can understand that. But I think that we cannot overlook the benefits that being part of community brings to the table. And I suspect that if we were to, do some sort of, study and look at those things, that we would see that people who are highly engaged in things like Freemasonry or the Odd Fellows or, these other social organizations that also practice philanthropy and empathy and kind of lean into those things also have very similar health benefits and social benefits and all of these things. So I think it's, on the one hand, there's the side of me that says, duh. And then there's the other side of me that says, it's about time that we've figured this out and that people are starting to pay a little bit closer attention to it.
And I think one of the things that when I was watching the documentary that kind of struck me was we were talking about, he was focusing on again, things that happened in Italy and things like that. And I noticed that a lot of the things he was talking about dealt with Western society, but we know that in Eastern society, they are a very connected society. Like for instance, in Japan, it's not uncommon for 3-4 generations of the same family to live in the same household, or for fathers to be following in the footsteps of their grandfathers, and then the sons are coming right up in the same in the same trade. So it was one of those things. And a friend of ours, Robert Marshall, had made a comment that because he went with Omar to go and see this film, and then had an experience not too far after that where he experienced a community that has a common language, common vocabulary. They see each other a lot, and the vibe was different. So what it kind of got me thinking about for Masonry is the fact that when we get into the fraternity and we start to have that kind of communal space and things like that, what kind of effect it should have, I feel, is that it gives us some, some folks that kind of feel the same way that we do. It's kind of like getting into the same boat with a whole bunch of people. And so your problems kind of become their problems, and they can help you out and stuff like that. And I think that kind of community is really important for us, especially in these days when it would be so easy and so simple for us just to disconnect from everybody. We could go to work, we could come home, we could turn on the television, we could get on the internet. We would never have to speak with anyone. Think about the people out there that say, oh, I have lots of friends. Well, Facebook friends, do those really count? That
right.
kind of thing. Where's the human connection?
Yeah, I was having a discussion today with a group of people this morning, and we were talking about this idea of fellowship. That there's an ancient Greek word in Koine Greek. It's called koinonia. It gets used a lot in Christian circles. You'll hear Sunday school classes named after it. It gets kind of thrown around quite a lot because it's a popular word, because it means fellowship or community. Usually it gets translated to mean fellowship. But one of the things that I find really interesting about it is that we could definitely describe Freemasonry as fellowship. And we can talk about how this fellowshipping of communities is kind of the benefit of what this documentary is talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that there is a nuance to this ancient Greek word that sometimes doesn't translate very well. And it ends up being, I think, if we were to translate it into like Westernese, or United Statesese, we would probably use the word family, like chosen family, because koinonia means so much more than just fellowship. And I think that when we dig down a little bit about what Freemasonry means to each of us, like fellowship can be going out and having dinner, or playing, golf, or going bowling, which you didn't do last night.
I went clay shooting.
Or clay shooting, exactly, which I didn't do. But the point is that those are aspects of fellowship, right? But that doesn't really encapsulate what is going on in those moments. That there is this idea that we have this chosen family that we are a part of. And while family can sometimes fill that role, we also know that while we sometimes love our family, we don't always like our families. That there are people that don't necessarily have the greatest relationship with their immediate families, or their family is just, they need a break from those things. And so having a chosen family that you can step into, that shares a lot of your interests, that cares about you, that knows what's going on in your life, and is genuinely invested in your flourishing in some sort of meaningful way.
Yeah.
The chosen family idea, I think, is so much more meaningful than just saying it's a fellowship. And I think that that's the key to what this join or die thing is all about. It's about finding a chosen family, a chosen community that you have made a conscious decision to choose to be with.
Yeah.
You're not with them because you were born into them. You're not with them because you share a same last name, although those can be very valuable and are very valuable. But there's this idea that when you step outside the immediate family and you get into these circles where, like, you and me and Brandy and our brother Sean and Omar and all of us in 148, we kind of live in this space that is like a very protective bubble.
Well, and the other thing that when you were talking, it came right back to my mind, is the other thing he talked about in this was the idea of, as people are parts of groups and things like that, you also build accountability with those groups. And so the benefit to society is that if people feel accountable to one another within those communities or within those groups, if I remember correctly, I think it was the idea of like crime rate decreases and things like that. Because again, like, it's if in a society, if I'm walking around and I find a wallet with money in it, and I'm in a community that's very close knit, somebody is going to find out if I don't turn in that wallet, right? And so I'm going to go and find the person that to whom that wallet belongs. And then that person kind of gets inspired by my actions. And it's this kind of snowball effect, because especially in those small knit communities, and Evie, you should probably know this because you came from a very small community. It's like when I was a kid, one of the towns that I lived in, there were only like 325 people. So everybody knew everybody, and half of the town was related to each other.
Right.
So if you did something bad, the town
Everybody knew
about it. Like
often before you got home from school.
Right. Like there was some lady downtown that would call your mom
Yeah.
and tell her, "Hey, I saw so and so,"
Or I
doing such
heard
and
so and so.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that it's also, yes, that, and there's the accountability aspect, but there's also the empathy aspect.
Mhm.
Because in that same situation, like, we all know that there are plenty of times when you can just pick up with that same wallet and walk away and no one's going to know. But you know that there is somebody out there that you probably know from the
Right.
ID in the wallet that they might need the money that's in that wallet, or the
This
credit
is their
cards,
rent money or whatever.
or yeah, and suddenly you because you know this person, they are a real fully formed human being in your mind. It becomes much harder to do something that would hurt them, and that's
You may see the direct results of not giving it.
right. And you see the pain and suffering that goes into that.
Mhm.
Disconnected communities, it becomes very easy to victimize other people because they're not fully formed human beings with whom you share an empathetic connection with.
They're just a face.
They're just they're just another face, another person, and their suffering doesn't really matter. And when you put people into communities where they are not only accountable but empathetic towards one another, it becomes much harder. And I think that there's also another aspect of this as well, that it changes who we are internally. I know that it's very easy for me to rationalize all sorts of behaviors. I can talk myself into or out of any number of things. How many times have we been walking through a store or perusing the internets and the Amazon.coms or the whatever website you're shopping from, and you've talked yourself into purchasing something that you absolutely know that you don't need? And I think that there's something about that our behaviors works like that as well.
Yeah.
It's very easy for us to talk ourselves into really bad behaviors like theft, like larceny, using people for your own personal gain. And when you have empathy for them, when you know them, when you have skin in the game, it makes it much harder for you to see them as anything other than a human being, and knowing that they are going to be hurt by something. So
Yeah,
these groups are really, that's what I think is at the heart of these building blocks of community, which are organizational joinings.
right. And the interesting thing is that a lot of in the documentary as well, it talks about, okay, so we saw this rise, in the 20s and things like that, and we get to the tippy top in like the mid 60s, and then we see the steady decrease. He also went back and looked at, well, if it was going down, it had to go up. When was the last time it was going down, and why did it go up? And come to find out, it was like at the turn of the century when things started turning around, and you had this rise in people joining things. And honestly, it was all because people were getting together for common goals that they were trying to accomplish. Women's suffragettes, they had people that were joining together to form book clubs that eventually led to, things being founded in particular cities and stuff like that. Boy Scouts, all of this kind of stuff. So it was through that kind of movement of people just getting together because they wanted to talk and they had common interests. Then you saw this rise and stuff that was happening. So it wasn't like doom and gloom. It was the idea of, okay, we've done this before. How do we do it again?
Absolutely.
So
yeah, I think that there's something to that. And I think that if Freemasonry positions itself properly and lodges are prepared, I think that there is an influx of men waiting to join an organization like Freemasonry. But the trouble or the obstacle that I see to that opportunity in many lodges is the lack of preparation. What are you bringing to the table to make somebody want to join? Because I think we're kind of in a similar period to what you just described, where there's a desire kind of in the world, or at least in our communities, for men to find something, and I think all people, but men especially, to find something that is life-giving and special and unique, and it is not like anything else that they're getting from their immediate families or their high school or college experiences. And I think that if lodges are smart, they're going to start really asking themselves, what can we do to be a part of this movement? How can we make sure that we're the place that these men seek out actively?
Make that path not a lot of resistance. Make it easy.
Yeah, make the path as easy as possible. It doesn't have to be. When I say easy as possible, I don't want anybody to misunderstand me and
Be able to
suggest
be found.
Yes, be able to be found is
Yeah.
the important part, and then be able to be traveled. Nobody is looking for an easy road. I haven't seen one of our petitioners suggest that they want an easy transformational experience.
Easy to find, not easy.
They want easy to find, not necessarily easy as in terms of frivolous. So I hope that lodges are taking some of the things that, if you don't like the things that we're talking about here at 148, there's got to be a lodge out there. I know that there's lots of people out there with podcasts who are trying to get a message about how to be better lodges, how to be more inclusive, how to be more welcoming, how to make the Masonic experience more available.
And I think it's also important for us to, because I'm pretty sure that all three of us would agree that with Freemasonry, we're not talking about this because we're wanting to pump up the numbers. What we're talking about is we've seen a decline in the membership of the Grand Lodge of Texas. Is there a way for us to look at what's been happening? And I know that the Most Worshipful has been looking at this and has ideas on it. What did we do in the past that we thought was a good idea, that we thought was going to turn around the ship, that didn't? Why didn't it do that? And then also, if we're looking at the decline, are we really declining, or are we returning to where we should be?
One of the things that often happens, I think, as we're kind of moving into and wrapping things up with this topic, one of the things that I think happened, I think, is the Masonic historians out there can correct me and heat up our comments about this if with the specifics. But I think around the 70s going on into the 80s of Freemasonry, at least here in Texas, there was this kind of movement to remove anything that might seem a little rooted in Masonic.
Are you trying to say skulls?
Well, that is part of it, but like the ways in which the temple changed,
okay.
the architecture in the building literally changed, because
kind of to scrub some of
the like, I guess maybe some of the satanic panic out of Freemasonry, as though that was ever really a concern for us. But maybe it was from the outside. I wasn't a Mason in the 80s, so I don't know. I can't speak to it. But I do know that it feels like that there has been this trend towards kind of scrubbing and sanitizing Freemasonry up through maybe like the mid-90s, early 2000s. And then I feel like that there was a period of like, is this a good idea anymore? And as the numbers kept declining, I think people started kind of wondering to themselves, is this such a good idea? And I'm starting to think that we're recognizing that wasn't such a good idea, and that maybe the thing that made Freemasonry so much more successful in years past was, one, that we had a lot of joiners out there that the society wanted to join, but second of all, we are more connected to our Masonic roots. We are more connected to the crunchy granola, Birkenstock, hocus pocus, woo-woo stuff that Freemasonry kind of used to stand for, or at least have its fingers dabbled into. It might not have ever stood for those things. I guess it depends on where in the country you were, or where in Texas you were.
Yeah.
But there was always this kind of idea that Masonry was something bigger.
I just went through my chapter and council degrees last week. I finished them. And you saying that as a Blue Lodge only guy is crazy.
Yeah.
Because it's out there.
And I
gotta
know
go
it.
find a body.
I know it is. I know, and it's out there in Blue Lodge too. But I feel like Blue Lodge kind of went sanitary for whatever reason, and I feel like it's
And
this move
it was
away from
because we
that.
were trying to get more members in.
Yeah, and it
And I
was
think
doing all the wrong things to get more members in.
And honestly, our lodge specifically, we've got plenty of members.
Yeah,
We've got 110 Master Masons. If you've got 30 active guys, you don't have room for everybody. If you've got 15 active guys, you don't have room for everybody.
right.
We've got between 25 to 30. So we've got guys that
I mean, you could do a lot with a lot of members and stuff like that. Yeah, you can. But at what point does the quality start to kind of shift downwards?
And I think that's probably something that, like, if we were to do like an autopsy of the past mistakes, I think the one thing that will come out of that autopsy is that we can't just go for quantity. That it is possible for us to have both quantity and quality, but we have to do it in a more discerning and slow way. We can't just have a glut of new members with no understanding of what Freemasonry is really all about. And I think
we also have to have people that understand that, it's okay to reverse course. It's okay to go, oops, we made a mistake. No, we're going to go backwards with
oops, endowments were a terrible idea. Maybe we shouldn't do those. Oh, I'm sorry.
Another hot take by Evie Kirkendall.
They're a great idea.
But again, I think we need to be
the Grand Lodge.
Exactly. This is a time, more so than ever, we as a fraternity, not just here in Texas, but I think worldwide, we need to be introspective. We need to look at what we're doing, why we're doing it, and we need to really kind of think about, okay, if this hasn't been working, then why are we continuing to do it?
Exactly.
If it's not worth our time, why are we continuing to do it? Well, we've been doing it for 60 years. Okay, well, now we see the effects.
And we've had 60 years of not working.
That says that,
you're failing miserably.
So stop.
Stop with it. You start thinking about fixing the problem and not just doing what we've always done because we've always done it.
Mm-hmm.
So, which I think segues kind of nicely into our next topic, which is we're talking about appendant bodies. And one of the things that always ends up coming up when we talk about appendant bodies is how do we use our 24-inch gauge to make sure that on the one hand, we get to experience all this great light of masonry that's available out there in the various appendant bodies, but at the same time, without abandoning your Blue Lodge, which was the door that opened up all of these things to you. Because what I sometimes notice, not always, I think present company is certainly accepted from this, but there's this tendency that I've seen over my years as a Mason that somebody gets to be a Master Mason, then they go join some of the appendant bodies, and you never see hide nor hair of them again. They disappear into some other appendant body. And I think that there's a question, number one, why is that? I think that that's a good question that we should, as Blue Lodges should be interrogating. Why are these other organizations more enticing, and why are brothers, spending more time over there than with us? But I also think it's a question of how do we negotiate being in a Freemasonic world that has the York Rite, the Scottish Rite, the Shrine, the Grotto, all of these, I won't even go into the invitation only bodies. Right. We're just talking about the things that you can fill out a petition and go be a part of at some point. Texas Lodge of Research, all of these things that are out there and available that can really draw your time away.
Right.
How do we balance that time? And I will be honest, I'm the Blue Lodge only guy in the room. Cody has been in his chair.
I've been in the Scottish Rite. I've been in the York Rite. I've been in the Shrine. Right now, I demitted from Scottish Rite. York Rite, I have gone NPD with, and Shrine, I demitted from. So I did all of the things, and I have some experience with that. But
okay.
Brandy,
and you are going through actively right now the York Rite experience, but I also have to admit, you're also still very active in Blue Lodge.
Well,
you have not. Well, you're
Yeah.
the worshipful master, of course. But I mean, even beforehand, you were still very active. I anticipate that as a past master, you're going to still remain very active. You were in the brew club and very active in the brew club for a
Oh,
long time
I have
before being worshipful master.
So many hobbies.
You- So let's have a conversation. How do we balance that? How do we balance life with these different upended bodies? And how do we make sure that our blue lodges don't end up just becoming ghost towns because of the vacuum cleaner that is or can be appendant bodies?
So for me, I feel like I owe the Blue Lodge quite a bit of time because they put a lot into me. I mean, they did all my degrees, obviously. I learned everything from Blue Lodge. I owe them something. So I paying it back the best I can. Now, after June, was 68 days?
Not that you're counting.
Not
Yeah,
that he's
yeah.
counting.
I'm going to be on the sidelines with you.
Yeah,
Well,
over in the north,
You'll still be a chaplain. But
the grumpy past master north.
yes, and I'm going to support Cody or whoever it is the best I can and not interfere. So that's my goal. But yeah, I'm not going
You heard it here first. I will be the first to report that should tradition prevail, and I'm sitting in the East, and Brandy tries to intervene on anything, I'll be like, I'm going to come right back to the podcast.
You know, the thing is,
He'll have this line queued
That's
up.
right. You remember
No,
when you said this? Click.
But the beautiful thing, I think, at 148 is that our past masters rarely
Oh,
ever inject themselves unnecessarily. So we're pretty lucky on that.
yeah, it's kind of like Survivor. I mean, you do build your alliances on your way up. I've got guys that supported me that know will support anything I want to do, but I'm also not doing anything stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
There's we've talked about this before, that there's our lodge has a lot of inertia that kind of keeps things propelled forward in the positive direction that we've kind of.
I will say one thing that Cody's going to experience, and I'm just starting it, is, our 175th.
Oh yeah.
That is a massive budget, and I can't imagine proposing my budget and then, I need another 50 grand on top of that.
Yeah.
How's that going to work out?
Yeah, it's that budgeting process.
I'm going to make
stay,
sure that I have.
stay tuned.
You're going to get it, but
I'm gonna have the big puppy dog eyes, and
you're literally going to double the budget. But it's
I'm gonna make sure that I look really nice that night. I'm
Well,
wearing
your
nice
bow
clothes.
tie and
Yeah.
I got hit with 8 grand. You're getting hit with 50.
Yeah, just know, fair listeners, that we were about to begin preparations for the celebration of our big 175th as a lodge birthday, and we are going to be spending an obscene amount of money on it. And
I think I also just heard
we're
some
already
giggles
budgeting
from
for
our
it.
listeners that are over in like England and Ireland and all that. They're like 175th
Yeah.
babies.
pish tosh infants.
And even some of our listeners up in the Northeast are like babies.
Right. Well, they're not that far ahead of us.
Well,
I mean,
you
to
know,
be honest.
What I was going to say,
Yeah, we are older than the city of Fort Worth.
we are older than the actual city. What I was going to say, Evie, is when you had mentioned the idea of why are guys getting to the Blue Lodge and then going to appendant bodies? If you're noticing in your lodge that you're getting a lot of guys that are coming in and then are automatically going to an appendant body, I think there's a couple of things to kind of think about with that. One is to know that your lodge then needs to really think about, if you have these number of guys that are coming to Blue Lodge, getting their master's degree, and then automatically leaving, there is something that the appendant body is giving to them that your lodge is not. And you need to figure that out.
And to be honest, there are certain things that the Blue Lodge cannot
No, yeah, exactly.
provide, like the continuation of certain pieces of information and the story of the Blue Lodge experience.
But there should be, your lodge should have something that anchors those brothers to the lodge experience and kind of compels them to come back. The next thing that I would say for lodges to consider is, if this is something that really grinds your gears, is guys that sign up for, that sign up to become a master mason, that become a master mason, that disappear, is to have conversations with them when they are candidates to find out what is your intention. And if their intention is to go through the degrees and then go on to the Scottish Rite or the York Rite because grandpa was in, the Scottish Rite or something like that, if that's something that your lodge is not interested in, then maybe encourage that petitioner to go to a particular lodge that you know has an affinity for said, for said group. Guard your West Gate. That may be a hot take, and I might have just, made a whole bunch of people mad, but I'm just saying, like,
You were very specific.
no, I'm just saying, think of it in those terms. And the other thing is then if you're comfortable with people coming to your lodge and moving on to appendant bodies, sometimes don't take it personal. They just really want to get into the shrine because their grandpa was in the shrine, and they know that they have to do this in order to do that. So in some instances, don't take it personal. They had to join a lodge in order to get into this particular appendant body, and you just so happen to say, okay, yeah, come join ours.
I
And
also
as long
think,
as they're paying their dues, whatever.
well, and I also, on the one hand, I'm one of the guys that, as the Blue Lodge only guy in the room, I've always been somewhat resentful of those people that pop in
Yeah.
to get a master's, to get their their raising taken care of, so that they can just vanish into the ether that is the appendant bodies. And on the one hand, I have those resentments. I think that it makes Blue Lodge feel very utilitarian, very kind of used, and just a step on the way to whatever your goals really are, and that all the things that we invested in you, in getting to know you, in guarding the West Gate, in taking you through your catechism, in walking you through this journey that is Freemasonry, and then to just act like we cease to exist, feels very disrespectful to me. But on the other hand, I also recognize that Blue Lodges can't be all things for all people.
Right.
Blue Lodges can't do everything that the York Rite's doing, that the Scottish Rite's doing, that the Shrine is doing, that the Grotto's doing, that AMD is doing, that any of the other organizations that are out there that are doing.
We might have lost our video. I'm not sure.
And that's okay.
We got audio.
Well, fantastic.
Well, I think it says like 20%. For those of you that are watching or listening, my phone just went like, hey, you have low battery. Well,
Okay.
no, duh.
So I turned off the display. But it did it over here too. But
Oh, okay. Well,
we'll
then
see.
never mind.
We'll see.
If we lose video, we'll do a cartoon.
Yeah, we'll have AI generated Evie, Cody, and Brandy.
Oh, Lord, I don't want to
Kim
see that.
Jong Un versus George W. Deathmatch.
That's right. Well, just, you know what? Just put a picture of George Washington and Kim Jong-un up, like sitting at a table with each other. Yeah, that's us talking. That's right.
But I think that there's something that these organizations have, and if they speak to you in a meaningful way, there's a part of me that says, go be part of it. And
Yeah.
if you have enough time to do both Blue Lodge and another appendant body, or 2 or 3 or 4 or whatever it is, then God bless and go forward. I'm not here to walk your Masonic journey for you.
Yeah.
And then there's also the people who are like, everything has a season. There's a season where you're very involved in Blue Lodge, and there might be a season when you're not.
March, April, May for some reason for some guys.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Elections.
I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We know who it is.
We pay attention to these things. But what I mean by a season, I mean a season of life where, like, you're just more excited about,
Yeah.
let's say, the Shrine than you are your Blue Lodge, or you're more excited about the York Rite than
I
you
joined
are about your
to
Blue
join the
Lodge.
shrine. But apparently I joined the wrong lodge because
Yeah, our lodge doesn't have a lot of Shriners in it, strangely enough.
3 now.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of gone in like a yo-yo. It went up really fast, and then it
But-
kind of went down
But the
really
funny thing
fast.
is that you got the York Rite degrees. It's about 80% our members.
Yeah,
I was gonna
York
say,
Rite
it's
seems
quite
to
a
be the
few-
one that's
yeah.
we are very affinity drawn to the York Rite. And I don't think that no one has ever pressured anyone in our lodge to be a part of any. In fact, the brothers that are in the appendant bodies very rarely even talk about it. I can say with some, I think, some truth without having to worry about it. Somebody coming back and saying that I'm fibbing about it. I don't believe that anyone's ever like came up to me with a petition and been like,
petition.
you need to join this appendant body or that
No,
appendant body.
I've had a Grand Master hand me a petition for Scottish Rite.
I think that there are some times when that happens, but I don't think 148 is the environment where that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And that's
So-
and that's something that we've cultivated.
I do
as a
believe
lodge.
so. I do believe as a lodge that we've tried to cultivate an environment where the value of masonry that we bring to the table is often superior to that other appendant bodies and organizations can
Well,
But
can offer.
I also kind of feel recently, though, wouldn't you agree, Brandy, that like with our members that are very active in appendant bodies, we have kind of changed to where their successes are also our successes. It's not like we're trying to take ownership of that, but we recognize that through our support for this particular member, they're able to reach higher heights and do things like that. And it kind of somehow brings notoriety and helps people to understand that at 148 we are supportive of our members beyond the walls of our room.
I think that that's a really excellent point. Is that at our lodge, I would say that we go way beyond. We're not threatened by other people's choosing to go be active in another appendant body more so than they are in Blue Lodge. I know we have several people who are more active in the York Rite than they are in our Blue Lodge, and that's fine for various and sundry reasons. And we still celebrate them. We don't browbeat them for having an affinity for.
We haven't seen you in decades.
We haven't seen you in so many, or you're never at any of our events. Where are you? We never do any of that. We might give them a good ribbing, like, oh, check this guy's dues card.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's all very good natured, and it's all meant to communicate that we miss you, but we're glad you're here with us.
It's spreading that cement of brotherly love.
Yeah, it's a very endearing sort of experience. It's not meant to poke fun at people.
I'm trying to find the name of the Grand Commander for Texas. What do they call their Grand Master?
Oh, you mean the Right Eminent Commander or whatever it is?
Yeah, he was the one that stepped out was a 148er.
Oh yeah, Brother Jason Lessiker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hadn't seen him in Blue Lodge ever.
No,
but he is a member.
But I had a conversation with him when I was secretary, and it may be one of those things that, again, for that particular brother, there's a season he's kind of reached the pinnacle in that particular organization. You never know. He might be like, "Ooh, I need a breather. I'm going to go back to
Like I said,
my community."
Grand Commander.
yeah,
Okay.
like there is a certain idea of like for everything there is a season. Blue Lodge has its season. York Rite can have its season. Scottish Rite, all of these things. But I think that the big question
And
is
the rest of their website's down. Gabe.
how do we balance our time between these things?
Okay, so I'm gonna speak from some experience here, because again, early on in my Masonic career, I was in Blue Lodge, and then I went straight into the Shrine, and then I went into Scottish Rite. I did Scottish Rite first, and then I went into the Shrine, and then when I ascended to the east at Tarrant Lodge, that's when I went into York Rite, because we had Tarrant Lodge or Tarrant Chapter and Council, and it was kind of like, I can't be master of Tarrant Lodge and not be a member of Tarrant Chapter and Council. It just felt weird to me. But in my experience in kind of like a young Masonic career was I didn't quite understand like what was the purpose of these different appendant bodies. I had heard like the Scottish Rite being the college of Masonry and stuff like that. I understood those types.
So that would be the York Rite College.
Yeah, well,
completely separate than appendant bodies.
right. But it was the idea that I just didn't quite have an understanding of it, and I thought it was the thing to do. That's what I had heard. Looking back now, I think the important thing for any young Mason, and when I say young Mason, I don't mean age-wise. I mean somebody that's just come into the organization, is I would highly encourage you to take some time to focus on the Blue Lodge. Get your heels kind of dug into that Blue Lodge. I'm not saying go on the line. I'm just saying, like, become regular in your attendance at lodge meetings and things like that, so that you can get an experience for that, because those things you're also going to be experiencing in the appendant bodies. And then you really need to see and think about, what am I in need of as a man, as a person, that maybe I'm not getting at the Blue Lodge, and maybe that niche is in one of the appendant bodies, and then you can kind of go from there. I would just caution anybody to not just start. Do not take the cup of juice and try and down it all at once. Sip, enjoy, take your time, that kind of stuff.
And don't have 2-hour business meetings.
Yeah.
Right.
Appendant bodies don't do that.
No 2-hour meetings. Make sure you have an agenda.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I heard a great piece of advice early on in my Masonic career that ideally this person suggested that you should wait about a year before you even consider joining an appendant body, so you can kind of see what Blue Lodge is really all about and get to kind of your feel for it and know what Masonry is really all about. I took that to heart, and it's been almost 10 years-ish since I was raised to be a Master Mason, and I still haven't really felt the need to leave the Blue Lodge to get any more fulfillment or enjoyment out of Lodge, although I am kind of toying with the idea of perhaps maybe doing an appendant body here.
You did join a dependent body. You joined
church.
you joined basically becoming a reverend in the Methodist church.
Yeah, becoming a clergy member.
So let's not say we didn't join an appendant
that's
body.
definitely
You
an appendant
joined
body.
81 hours.
So just to reiterate, for 2 non-Mason members, Blue Lodge, you can literally dedicate your entire life to learning it, and you're never going to learn it all by design.
And to be honest, I think that you could dedicate your entire life to just the fellowcraft degree, and
absolutely.
never ever
Literally
move
the
beyond
point
that
of
point.
it.
Yeah, that is nothing besides.
It's a lifetime of learning.
It's a lifetime of learning.
Yet
So
it's the shortest degree. It's crazy how they figured that out.
yeah, and it also is the shortest amount of time that anybody is in that degree, I think, on average.
And if you're in another grand jurisdiction and actually the fellowcraft degree is one of the longer ones, tell us about that. Like comment and let us know. Oh, well, here in so and so,
You have to spend X number of years as a fellowcraft.
I've heard, and again, I don't have proof of this, but I've heard that in some grand jurisdictions, the fellowcraft degree or the fellowcraft section is a 7-year process. So hey,
I would not be opposed to that.
kudos
being
to
really
those folks
honest.
if that is the case.
But
yeah, the main thing that we were talking about there again is you have to take time in the Blue Lodge, and if the Blue Lodge is not feeding something in your soul, then there probably is an appendant body that will have that food for you.
Sure.
But I would also encourage you to talk to the officers at your Blue Lodge and say, hey, I would really like to know more about X, Y, and Z. And who knows, you might have the next big idea for that Blue Lodge that could kind of
There are
keep
no
people-
innovations in Masonry, sir.
listen.
We've done it all.
There are no innovations. We could have another whole talk and podcast about the innovations in Masonry.
Well, it sounds like from what I'm hearing, just to kind of start bringing things to a close, is that, for those of you who are interested in appendant bodies, that they are worthwhile.
Mhm.
They are certainly worth your attention. And just make sure that you're taking on the right amount for the amount of time that you have available. You're not overcommitting, and then you're not leaving your Blue Lodge high and dry. I feel like that's one of the big complaints that I have.
Mhm.
And I would love to see somebody going into talking about having a little more balance. I realize appendant bodies need membership. Everybody needs membership these days. But remember that your Blue Lodge is kind of like your home lodge in both literal and figurative ways.
Well,
and
it's
that
the base
they
of your
deserve
Masonic edifice.
Right. And
Yeah.
you should definitely respect them enough to remain active and present, as long as possible. If it doesn't work out for you, then of course go find a place that fills your soul.
And the other thing that I would suggest is don't shop for opinions. Find 2, maybe 3 brethren that you really trust. Ask their opinions. Don't ask everybody, because everybody's going to have a different opinion.
Yes.
So you're don't do that.
Yeah, it's a great way to get really more confused
Yeah.
and get less clarity.
No.
So, all right, brethren. Well, thanks again to Brandy and Cody for another great conversation for the brethren out there in Texas and elsewhere.
And thanks, Evie.
And I
And in
also want to
North
say thanks again to our sponsor, B&Brew. Great mead, great coffee. Check them out, bnbrew.com. Use that promo code FW148. Get some money saved off of that bill. They ship to most states if it's legal.
All the free states.
All the free states. Yeah. There's a couple that they don't, and that's because of legal reasons that they don't allow out of state shipping. But reach out to Chris. I'm sure that there are ways that you can find his product elsewhere besides online. So with that in mind, my name is Evie Kirkendall, and I am signing off.
Brady Patton sign off.
And this is Cody Cox signing off.
It's actually